we're going to start in extended child's pose. So find that just right place for you where you feel like you can relax into the pose a bit. So those knees are just a tad wider than the ribs. Like we don't want them so wide that like our whole torso is just falling down to the floor. We almost want to have our knees just far enough apart that if we do sink low enough, our thighs catch our ribs and support us. So try and find that place where the knees aren't so underneath you that it's pressing into your belly. Your belly has room to expand. So we want just a teeny tad wider than the hips, probably for most of us. I've got to take this one knee up to the side to be able to get even close to an extended child's pose. So sinking towards the heels, sinking that bottom down towards the heels as close as it will go. If you have knee stuff, just shifting forward a bit so there's not so much pressure on the knees, take care of that. So for me, it's quite a ways forward right now, right? But I can still get here. So draw that belly into the spine for a moment, pull the hips back, and then shift forward just a little, bring the hands a little closer so the elbows can bend and you can sink down and let the belly relax now. So just let the belly relax, let it fall towards the floor. Even if you were here in studio with me, nobody could see, right? We can just let it hang, just let it drop. It's a great place to do this, right? So we don't get, I have all sorts of self-conscious stuff. And so we don't have to worry about any of that right now. Let's just find the breath. Close the eyes, let the head rest down on the floor. So if you feel like your head can't rest on the floor, come back a little bit, like bring the arms back a little bit so you can sink down a little more and let it be easy. And then find a nice big breath all the way down into the belly. So fill up those lungs and let the belly stay relaxed as you take a nice big inhale. And then as you exhale, feel the whole body sink into the floor. 2 more nice breaths here. And then let's stretch those arms back out again. So stretch them on out long. On the inhale, lift up, shift forward. You might feel like if your hands are really far forward of the shoulders when you shift forward, you might want to bring the hands back a little bit. We don't need the wrists right underneath the shoulders. We just don't want them really far away. So we're going to dip the hips down only as far as feels good. So if it pinches the low back, don't drop the hips as low. Push away from the floor. Draw the shoulders back, so squeezing the shoulder blades together and push up, and then lift the heart and chin. That's going to be an inhale. And then we're going to pull that belly way into the spine and use our core to take us back towards our extended child's pose. All right, so we're going to try and flow this with the breath. So this will be our exhale. On an inhale, lift up, shift forward. On the exhale, let those hips settle down a little bit. On the inhale, push away from the floor and pull those shoulders back and lift the heart and chin. And then on the exhale, we're coming back. Okay, so let's give it a try. Inhale up. Exhale, settle. Inhale, push up and open that heart. Exhale, push back. Again. So nice long breaths so we have time to get into each pose. Let's do it one more time. Inhale. Exhale, settle. Inhale, open. Exhale, bring it back into our extended child's pose. Come on up into our downward facing dog. Pedal the feet, rock the hips. Find some movement here. Whatever feels good. There's no right or wrong. All right, let's take it back down to our extended child's pose. Stretch it back. And inhale, lift up, shift forward. This time, bring it down to the floor. So bringing it all the way down. Maybe not our perfect knees, chest, chin, but that's all right. Doesn't need to be perfect every time or any of the time, really. So draw those shoulders back. So we're going to take the hands. Let me spin around. We're going to take the hands wide. So they're on the outside edges of your mat. Let me just move this back a little bit. Sorry, you guys. I'm playing around with the positioning of my mat, which we don't have time for in this 30-minute class. So hands are outside the mat, right? So your wrists are kind of in line with your shoulders, give or take. You can play around with this where the hands are. It should feel good. So we're pressing into the finger, not the tips, but the fingerprints, finger pads. On an inhale, push up like we would for Cobra. Draw the shoulders back and down, pulling the elbows down, lifting the chin, come down. Okay, so we're gonna do that with the breath. Inhale up, roll, squeeze those shoulder blades together. Come on down. One more time. Okay, so we're gonna let those hands rest down, bring them under the shoulders, tuck the toes, push on up, inhale, and exhale, push the hips back to the heels, keep the toes tucked as you press on back and just stretch it on out. Come on up to downward facing dog. Bend that right knee, sink the left heel down and push on back. And switch. And stretch it back. Shift forward, drop those knees down back to our extended child's pose. Inhale, lift up, shift forward, bring the chest down to the floor. So going back to that position we were just in with the fingertips on the floor. We're going to lift up again. And this time we're going to twist. So you're going to twist to the right. And as you twist to the right, you're going to bring the left shoulder down towards the floor. So you're going to bring the ribs kind of back down towards the floor, and you're kind of on the side a little bit. We're trying to get into the front of that left shoulder. So you should feel it in that left shoulder. If you don't, try and twist open a little more and bring the shoulder down a little more. Okay, and then come up, twist to the other side, bring the shoulder down. It's not going to touch the floor. Up, inhale, exhale, twist. Inhale, exhale. One more time each side. Those fingers are getting tired. We're almost done. And release it down. Bring those hands forward so the head can just rest on the hands and those poor fingers can have a break. If your hips feel like they need a little wiggle, you might as well, even if they feel like they don't. No harm in wiggle them here and just waking them up a bit. All right, let's go ahead and stretch that arm out to a T. So we're usually a little more warmed up when we do this. So listen to your body when you do this, okay? So extend that left arm out and inch the wrist up so the wrist is a little higher than the shoulder joint. Bring that right hand right up underneath the chest. So kind of lift that chest up and get the hand right underneath you. Lift up, the ribs right off the floor, spin open a little, not all the way, just a little bit, and start to come back down so you're on the side of the ribs. See if you can get if you can get all the way to the floor. You might have to unwind a little bit towards the floor. So you might need to bring the chest back towards the floor a little to get the shoulder all the way down. Now use that right hand to push you back open a little and pull your shoulder away from the hand. So you're pulling it in the direction that we're twisting. So you're pulling that left shoulder towards the center of your mat. So some of you might be able to be solid on that shoulder and bring the arm right up off the floor along the side. You can do whatever you need to with the legs. Legs can be bent. Some people like to pull that right leg behind them and even try and spin open a little more. That's if you've got really open shoulders. Find your breath wherever you're at. Bring the right hand back down to the floor if it's not already. Come back onto the belly. Bend that left elbow. So the hand is right above the elbow. Okay, so you've got like that 90-degree angle. Inch the elbow up so it's a little bit higher than the shoulder again. Okay, get that hand right underneath the chest. We are not going to bring the shoulder to the floor this time. Open up just like we did. Spin open, elbow stays on the floor. See if you can, you might need to inch the elbow up to get that like floating rib, that very lower last rib down there. See if you can get that down to the floor. If you can't, unwind a little again. So you can at least get those lower ribs down to the floor. And then again, pull the shoulder away from the elbow as you try and twist open. So this one, we should keep the hand on the floor because we don't want the shoulder on the floor in this one. We're trying to get a little more into that pectoral. So we're trying to, you might even find if you lift off the floor a little bit and try and spin open, you'll get more. If your elbow is lower than the shoulder, you're not going to get this stretch. Your elbow, if you look over your shoulder and your elbow is lower than your shoulder, slide it up a little. Bring it down, unwind. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Forgot all those breathing cues. Stretch that right arm out to a T. Look at that wrist. Get it a little higher than the shoulder again. Spin open. Oh, I didn't get the hand close enough. If the hand is too far away, it doesn't work. You gotta get that hand right underneath your chest. Lift up, open up, come all the way down to the floor. So again, you might have to spin the chest back towards the floor to get that shoulder all the way down. Maybe even peek over your shoulder to the right and just see where that wrist is and make sure it is at least straight out from the shoulder. Or where, yeah. Slowly open up. Wherever you can go. Listen to your body. Trying to keep the head up off the floor. Lose the stretch if we drop the head down. You can play around with where the head is, whether you're looking up or forward or down. I look up or forward. Breathe. Left hand back to the floor under the chest, spin back onto the belly. Get that 90-degree angle going, so bend that elbow. Elbow is higher than the shoulder. We might even end up moving it up a little bit more. Get that left hand right back underneath the shoulder again, lift up, spin back open, bring the ribs down if you can, but pull the shoulder. If we just kind of drop down, we lose it. So we want to push up and pull the shoulder away from the elbow. It's like this front of the shoulder, we're pulling towards the center of our mat. Find your breath. Do whatever you need to do with the legs. Like I've got my leg floating in the air and actually kind of pulling behind me to try and get open a little more. Breathe. Slowly bring it back onto the belly. Hands under the shoulders, tuck those toes, push on up, nice inhale. And exhale back to our extended child's pose with our knees. So this is the variation where our knees stay underneath us so they don't go out wide and our toes are tucking. So keep those toes tucked and just stretch it on out. And let's take it back up to our downward facing dog. Pedal the feet, rock the hips. Let's get in those shoulders a little more. Let's rock forward into plank. Go right past those wrists and then take it back to down dog. Shift forward, just rocking back and forth at whatever pace feels good for you. If you want a little more in the shoulders here, when you go back into your down dog, you can bend the knees and sink the chin or nose towards the floor. And that gets into those shoulders a little more. And then shifting forward, right past those wrists. You can even dip the hips down and roll the shoulders back, almost like an up dog. And then if you're gonna do that though, you gotta use that core. So if you want a little core there, you want a little more challenge, find that kind of toes tucked up dog if you want, or not, you can keep it gentler. All right, let's all push into down dog, bend those knees. Push the butt way, way back, as far away from the hands as you can, like you're trying to touch it to the wall behind you, or whatever's behind you, something behind you, if there's not a wall behind you. And look at the floor and start to sink your chin towards the floor. If you're really, depending on your anatomy here, your body, if you have the knees bent enough, your ribs might end up touching your thighs. And take it down, drop the knees straight down, feet rest down, walk the hands back. Bring the arms along the sides, palms facing up into child's pose. Drop, drop, drop. Let those shoulders and wrists, if the wrists need a little love, roll them around. And then drop. And let's roll it on up like we're coming out of ragdoll, lifting up all the way to the knees, all the way up, standing on the knees. Scoop the tailbone under, squeeze those glutes so the hips are right above the knees. Got that nice tailbone tuck and the glutes are squeezing, fists on the back of the hips. Squeeze the elbows together, squeeze the shoulder blades together, lift the heart up to the sky, lift the chin. Gently pushing those fists into the hips to keep those hips over the knees. Lift the heart, squeeze the elbows, breathe. Core lifts you up and forward to tabletop. Shift those hips from side to side to release that low back. Nice inhale into cow. Exhale, cat. Down dog. Press it back. Okay, walk the feet. So again, it's all about anatomy here, you guys. It depends on your body. I have really long arms and a long torso. So it makes it really easy for me to reach through and grab my leg. So some of you might want to walk your feet forward a little bit more. You want your feet is about as wide as the hips, so at least 6 inches apart. All right, so you might want to walk your feet forward a little. You could play around with this and bend your knees. Okay, really root into your right hand. Spread the fingers, press into that right palm. Take your left hand, reach underneath you, and try and grab the outside of that right ankle. Or whatever, the opposite one. I don't remember if I mirror him in mirror image or not. Okay, so you're just reaching through, grabbing whatever you can grab. Maybe it's the calf, not the ankle. If you've got short arms, it's gonna be the calf. It's not gonna be the ankle. If you got monkey arms like me, maybe it's the ankle. Maybe you're one of those people that doesn't need to step your feet forward and you can reach all the way back to your heel. It's ridiculous, right? And so most people end up like in line with their head, in line with their hip, and they're underneath their arm. We actually want to grab whatever we can grab, the calf, whatever we're grabbing, come back to center, grab onto that and use that to kind of push. I'm pushing here, I'm not pulling, I'm pushing against that to help me twist open as I push back. Breathe. Slowly release. Other side. Take your time. Breathe. Slowly release. Take it down. Child's pose or extended child's pose, whatever your body feels like it needs right now. Mine needs child's pose because those wrists need a little rest. And if those wrists need a little love, you can roll them on around. Whatever they need. All right, let's take it into extended child's pose. So stretch those arms on out if they're not already. Okay, and we're gonna shift forward a little bit so that our bottom is kind of hanging over. It's not right down on our heels. We're just shifted forward a little bit. So there's a little lift in our bottom. So we have room to pull back. And then we're gonna take those hands on over to the right. Inch that left hand away. So your hand's right on the floor. Bend that right elbow and bring that forearm down to the floor. And then bring that left shoulder down. Push, use that right arm to push over into the left. So you're pushing to the left with that arm. You might want to inch it a little closer even. Sink down, pull the hips back. If your hand is sliding, you might even grab the edge of your mat so it doesn't slide, so you can really push over. And then pull that left hip back away from the shoulder. Find the breath. Lift up, bring that left hand into center, shift forward, almost like you're in tabletop. But our knees are still a little wide. So we're in this in between. So hands in center, right arm comes around the back, spin open to the side into a twist. So spin that heart way open to the side as much as you can. Start to pull the hips back and try and stay open in your twist. If you have monkey arms like me, you might be able to reach around and grab the inside of that thigh. If we were in tabletop, you might have a little better go at it. Pull back as you twist open. Find the breath here. And shift forward. So we're gonna do the side bend first before we do that twist. So find your extended child's pose again with that right hand over to the left, right off your mat. Bring that left forearm down. Right shoulder comes down so it's even with the left. Push on over into that side body, that right side body. Pull the hip back away from the shoulder. Let the head rest inside the arm. Find the breath. Pulling the hips back as you push into the side body. Breathe. And lift up. Bring that right hand into center. Shift on forward a little bit. Spin open into your twist. Spin that heart open, open, open. Way open. How far around the back can you get that left arm? Pull the hips back as you stay open in your twist. So we're trying to get into the outside of that right shoulder. Find that breath. And slowly release. Keep that hand on the floor. Bring the other one on top. So they're one hand's on top of the other. Scoop the tailbone under, draw the belly in, and pull the hips back. Sink the whole body down, just like we would first. So you're in extended child's pose, but your hands are on top of each other. Keep a little scoop of the tailbone and the belly pulling in as you pull the hips back. Breathe. Lift up, shift forward, bring that other hand on top. Scoop, pull back. Let the head relax. Keep the belly pulling up into the spine as you sink down. Breathe. Trying to get into those latissimus dorsi muscles. Biggest muscles in the back. Shift forward till you can bring the elbows down to the floor. Interlace the fingers. Get those knees on underneath you. Stretch that right leg on out behind you. Inhale, lift the leg, look up. Exhale, bend the knee and kick towards the head. And then exhale, squeeze in. Draw that cheek and knee together, together. And stretch it out. Inhale, lift up, look up. Exhale, bend the knee. Bring it in. One more time. And bring that knee on down. If the elbows started sliding apart too much, bring them in. Push up. So push that collarbone away from the floor. Draw the belly in. Stretch that other leg out. Inhale, lift up, look up. Exhale, kick and squeeze. Two more. And the next time you bring that knee in, squeeze in and take it down. Inch those elbows back towards the knees until you can come into one last child's pose. Let those arms settle. Soften the jaw. Find the breath. So we're going to end a little differently today because we're almost out of time. And so I would like you to find a position that feels good for you. So if you are one of those people that can get into a nice, relaxed, extended child's pose where we're not really fully in extended child's pose, like the elbows are bent and the head can rest easily on the floor, and that feels really easy and comfortable for you, great. If that's not a place that you can feel comfortable, flip around onto your back into whatever position, Shavasana or even knees bent, right? Just somewhere where you feel like you can relax and find the breath easily without the body distracting you too much. So let's come back into that nice deep belly breath we were working with in extended child's pose a bit ago. Eyes are closed, body is soft, let it relax as much as it can here. Let that belly fully relax as you just fill up the lungs. Not to the point where you're like straining, but it's easy, like you just slowly, little by little, bring more and more air into the lungs. And as you do that, the more you fill up those lungs, the more you feel that expansion in the belly. Imagine that you're trying to touch the very bottom edge, the lowest part of your lungs with the breath. You're trying to get oxygen to every nook and cranny of the lungs. Each exhale helps you soften and release a little more. And then letting the breath go and just being for a moment. If the mind wanders off your mat, bring it right back. Say, hey, 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 come back. We're only here for another 30 seconds or so. You stay right here with me. Staying present and just letting go for a moment. And coming back to the breath. Whatever breath feels good for you right now, easy breath. Just feeling the breath in the body. If you see the soul in every living being, you truly see, including yourself. Don't forget, you are a soul first before anything else. And so you can stay here as long as you like. When you're ready to move on, don't forget to pause and thank yourself for showing up here on your mat, no matter how briefly.